you have got to get second opinion and third opinion, and then you call up another professional to tell you what to do. So when you've been disempowered in such a fundamental way, then it becomes very difficult to use your intuition.
Perhaps Frank is onto something. Is there a connection between our fears for our kids and their dominance of modern family life? In the past, couples just did have children. It was the way life was. Today, maybe because many of us see parenthood as a lifestyle choice, part of our self-fulfillment, we invest our children with our own hopes and fears.
It strikes me that now in families we are parenting underneath a sort of cloud of anxiety because our children are seen as some sort of extension of us. If they're successful, then we feel successful as parents. And I don't think that level of anxiety can be a healthy thing for the family.
Youth crime is costing Britain more than £7 billion a year.
But today, there seems to be a real contradiction in how we feel about kids. We not only fear for our children, we've started to fear some children themselves.
They start young, vying to become local heroes.
Jim Crash, you got your windows put through.
When the kids beaten up by people like me.
It seemed every time we turned on the TV, there was another kid out of control.
Not bad for a mommy's boy, eh? Like I said, I can supply her.
In 1993, one crime shattered our view of children and family. Robert Thompson and John Venables abducted, tortured and killed 3-year-old James Bulger. His murderers were 10 years old.
The Shadow Home Secretary Tony Blair said tonight these were the ugly manifestations of a society that is becoming unworthy of that name.
There was a great wave of shock and sympathy for James Bulger's parents. There was also open hostility.
To me, they're babies, but they are evil.
Most of us like to recall our own childhood as a time of relative innocence, of harmless fun and simple pleasures. Sure, there were always exceptions. Children who truanted, robbed and roamed the streets. We used to label them troubled or delinquent.
You leave us little alternative. You must now go to an approved school.
Today, we use an altogether nastier label. We call them feral.
Are the kids ruining your neighbourhood? What are we going to do about it?
They know what they're doing, they don't care.
They might not have
to try to reason with them, they laugh at you.
And we've tried laughing at them, turning our fear into comic ridicule.
Do you stand by your plea of not guilty?
No, because what happened was, right, was this thing happened, what you don't know nothing about. Yeah, they weren't even supposed to be anywhere even near there. The Meredith came over and started stirring it all up, started calling me all these things, talk about this thing, what you don't even know about.
Some people didn't think the problem started and finished with the kids. It became one of the catchphrases of our time. I blame the parents.
I personally think 98% out of 100 is to do with the parents. The parents are going to work and they neglect the children.
Barbara Lewis was perhaps the kind of parent they had in mind. A single mother of 3 sons, in 1991, her youngest, Ashley, began to get into trouble with the police.
He had his first caution when he was 7.
And what was that for, Ashley? Do you remember?
Theft in a shop. I mean, I did punish him for that. I tried to ground him, which I've never been able to do.
And what would he do if you tried to ground him when he was 7, 8, 9, 10? What sort of things would he do?
Out the window.
Out the window?
Yeah.
Can you remember the first more serious thing that you got into trouble for?
Burglary. House dwelling.
And what were you spending the money on?
Cannabis at the time. That's all we used to do. We used to just buy a big lump of cannabis and smoke it all day. And from the age of 15 or 16 onwards, that's when I stopped buying cannabis, and then it was heroin then.
As the 1997 general election approached, youngsters like Ashley became a target for politicians of all parties, enthusiastically proclaiming they'd bring them into line. Barely a year after its election, Labour passed legislation in England and Wales that allowed youth curfews, antisocial behaviour orders, and gave courts the power to hold parents to account for their children's misbehaviour.
I make no apology. I back zero tolerance on crime. I back the powers to make parents responsible for their children, to overhaul the youth justice system.
In 1998, Ashley was convicted yet again of burglary. Even though she'd successfully brought up her two eldest sons, Barbara was served with a parenting order. For 3 months, she had to attend a weekly class called Living with Teenagers. If she didn't go, she could be sent to prison.
When I first went to the meeting, I expected it to be youngsters and telling me what to do with my teenage son and whatever. And I was looking forward to going to say, right, there we are then, you know, what are you going to teach me? I've tried everything, that attitude. But it was such a shock when I got there. They were 3 grown-up people who had had experience of working with children, and they weren't patronising. They were just helpful, and for 2 or 3 hours every Wednesday, I was me again, because I could say what I wanted to say, how I felt, and not feel guilty.
But Ashley kept stealing to fund his heroin addiction. Over the next 5 years, he was sent to prison 14 times.
It's called a parenting order, but it seems that it was working for you. It was helping you to hold yourself together, better understand your situation, better cope with it. And yet, Ashley was still doing what he was doing. What it was designed to do was to make him behave.
Oh, I didn't even go there.
No.
Didn't hit that spot at all.
Ashley, now 22, entered a methadone program. He's promised them both he'll never reoffend. He and Claire are starting their own family.
Do you think it'll make you a stricter parent, what you've been through?
Hopefully. But I think it will, because I know what I've gone through, I know my mother's gone through. So hopefully it'll put me on the right path.
In recent years, the structure of the typical British family has been through some dramatic changes. It wasn't so long ago that almost every child was brought up by married mummy and daddy. And this little idyll dominated popular culture at every age.
The happy summer days went by. The children grew used to caravan life. Belinda and Anne carried water from the farmer's well. Daddy pumped it from there into the roof tank when it was needed. Mummy went down to the village